Welcome into the At the Art podcast, episode 127. I'm joined by Steven Hardesty today as we look to break down the CIF Southern Section playoff brackets just released about 2 hours ago, Hardy. And I know both of our phones have been buzzing with some somewhat encouraging messages and some frustrations that we'll get into here shortly. But, again, best time of the year, in my opinion, right? It's playoff time,
Oh, I'm
one and done.
so excited. It's like the one and done is the best part of this. It's like I know series are great and everything, but that's the funnest part of CIF Southern Section. It's the biggest section in California, and you got to show up every game. We talked about this last year when we did this podcast, and it was like you don't have a day off. If you have a day off, you're going to play travel ball or you're going to college. Like it's over. And as we were talking before this, like some of these matchups, it's like holy crap, we had a really good season, and so and so's coming at us, or so and so's coming at us in round one.
Yeah, no, I love that comment you made. I think it's great. I saw a post from Matt Lucas over at El Dorado this weekend saying like Saturday practices in May are the best or something,
Yes,
something along that. I mean,
I saw that. I retweeted. Love that.
yeah, it's kind of like Thanksgiving practices for football, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you're in the postseason, you're doing some good stuff, but just kind of looking at these brackets, you and I were talking before we started here. There's a lot of questions, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that make you just kind of scratch your head and be like, dude, what do we, how did this come to be? We're going to look at divisions 1, 2, and 3 on the
Hmm.
podcast. And I think we counted 3 interleague matchups in round one,
Hmm.
one in D1 and a couple in D2.
When you
That to
got
me is pretty
four
wild,
one
right?
versus one, like it's like 5 or 6 one versus ones. Like, hey, you won your league title, and you're going to go play another champion. And then
Yeah.
you've got
And then
ones
there's like,
versus sixes.
yeah, then you got like a fifth place team or a sixth place team,
Yep, getting a home
in one
game.
league hosting a league champ, and it's it makes you wonder kind of what goes into the formula for them kind of creating these brackets. But I mean, no bracket's perfect ever, right? There's always
No.
going to be somebody that's upset about the bracket. So
Somebody's real happy and somebody's really upset. No matter what you do, somebody loves you and somebody hates you.
right, exactly. It's a thankless job for the CIF putting this together, but they did their best, and we get to talk about it, right? We get to pick it apart, and we get to chat about what we think is good, what we think is going to be potentially like a really fun postseason. I think at these
Yeah,
3 levels.
big time. I think just going through it when it got posted, it took me like 5 minutes to find it because I was going to Max Preps and forgot I got to go to CIF first. So once I found it, I already had my phone buzz like 4 or 5 times in those 5 minutes. And I looked at it and I opened it up, and two of the texts that came in, I was like, oh, well, I see why you guys are so upset. It's like,
Yeah.
how did we draw this team in the first round? Like, man, we should have lost 2 more games and we wouldn't have had this bad. So
Yeah,
but it's going to be a grind. Like, I think the funnest thing for me is my area is a lot of Division 2. Like up here, north of Orange County, LA, Ventura County, Santa Barbara's a lot of Division 2. And I went in and looked at that bracket, and it's like, D1's going to be a grind. Like, no matter what, winning Division 1 in Southern Section is going to be a grind. But man, you're going to win Division 2. It's going to be a bigger grind than I've ever seen before.
yeah.
Like,
D2 is loaded.
it is loaded and it is really talented. And it is like there are teams that I could have seen getting to the championship that might be out in the first round or the
Yeah.
second round. And if you'd have told me they won the championship at the end of all this, I wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty wild, and Division 2. I mean, that's typically we always say, right? Division 1's the hardest
Yeah,
championship to win in high school sports in the Southern section. D2's right there this year.
it is. It's going to be like you don't have the names coming at you like when you look at Division 1 and you see, the 5 teams getting a bye. And obviously, we all know the powerhouse and the commits and everything. But man, you look at D2 and it's like every one of those teams has a really good arm. And then a lot of those teams have a really good second arm or third arm or fourth arm. And it's like, and that's what wins you a CIF championship because it is one and done. So
Yeah,
it's who's got the most arms that can come at you. The interesting thing about it is this 9-day break. Like
yeah,
I was dying over the weekend. Like, okay, where am I going to games next week?
Right.
Like, I'm like trying to figure this out. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm going out on Thursday and Friday, but where the heck am I going? Like,
Yeah.
I've sat around for 4 days waiting for this.
Not only that, it's like Thursday afternoon or Friday afternoon. You're like, dude, I
Yeah.
should be at a game right now, but you're like, you're at home doing other work, right? You're like,
I'm
dude,
like, should
what's
I
going
drive
on?
up to the central section and like go see a game up there? But I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I have spent so much time on the road. I'm like, it's not too bad to be home for a day or two.
Right, right, right. Well, let's we got a lot of conversation. Yeah, obviously, you mentioned the text you got. I had a phone call with the coach in Division One this morning, and he was not at all happy about the bracket in terms of the 5 buys and the not having 32
Mm.
teams in it, and first time and I think ever that's been the case where it's not a full 32 team bracket. And you look at a team like Corona, if I'm not mistaken, they were off all of last week, and then they're not going to
Yeah.
play till Thursday, so
I
they're going
think
to
it's
have like
17 days between games or something like that.
right.
And
It's our tournament last year, right?
I
Where
was
they
just going to say that. Yeah.
right? Where they had 23 days between games or something.
It's like these guys are going to be so excited to go see somebody that's not Seth Hernandez or Mason Sims or Billy Carlson or Ethan Bingaman, or let's just keep going
Or
down the list of
Durfers
guys, yeah,
or
Durfers or the Daya kid. And
yeah.
those pitchers are going to be going, okay, I'm happy to not have to see Bingaman swinging against me or Anthony Murphy Jr., the Evil Brothers. Like,
Yeah.
and one of my favorite teams this spring that I was super excited to see how well they did. It's like, okay, you're Los Osos, go play Cypress, and if you win, you know who's looming right next door. And it's like, it's a great feeling to get that second round, but holy crap,
Yeah,
that second
yeah.
round's not gonna be fun.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, but we'll get to D1 here in a bit, but let's start with D3.
Let's roll.
Full bracket, or actually, sorry, 31
31
teams
team.
in this bracket. Colony, the number 1 seed, gets the bye. Ukaipa, the 2 seed, will host Sarah, which that should be a really, really interesting game. Cajon out of the Citrus Belt gets the 3 seed, and Temecula Valley out of the Southwestern League, the number 2 team out of the Southwestern League, gets the 4 seed there. Some intriguing matchups in Division 3, Hardy, and we'll kind of go through a couple of the matchups here, and then we won't pick a winner like we did last year. That caught us a lot of flack.
Hey, I don't know. I went 4 for 5. I was happy.
You were a little better than me. It was that 5th team that you picked that didn't win. It was the other guys.
That
Right?
was, yeah, I got a lot of flack for that one because I took one of the teams that's got a bye in Division 1 this year.
Yeah. But again, like some really intriguing matchups, some really good teams, but one of the
This
matchups.
one's fun for me. Like we talked about, you and I were talking about this before we got on here. Like Division 1 is very compact. It's Inland Empire, it's Orange County. You get a sprinkle of around that.
Mhm.
But then when you get down into Division 3, it's like you've got teams from the Inland Empire, you got teams from Santa Barbara, you got teams from up almost all the way up the 5 going into Bakersfield. It's that becomes a grind, not necessarily just because of the depth of these teams. Like
Yeah.
you may have to get on a bus and sit on a bus for 3.5 hours and then unload, stretch, and we all know the CIF pregame rules for playoffs, and
Yes.
you're not going to have the same prep that you did all spring. And
Yeah.
it's like all of a sudden you look up and it's the 4th inning and you don't have a hit and you're down 4-0. And it's
Right.
like, holy crap, how did this happen? Like that's one thing I love about Division 3 is there are a lot of challenges that come with getting through Division 3.
Yeah, and then you got to get on a bus in LA traffic and
Yeah.
4-hour ride
That
home.
might take you 3.5 hours to go 60 miles.
Right, exactly. But one of the matchups that you and I really liked here in Division 3 in the first round was San Marino heading over to Great Oak in what should be a really good pitchers matchup with Tomas Bilbado against Reagan Ricken going for Great Oak. And I saw Great Oak a couple times this year. Offensively, there's some struggles, there's some challenges there. And San Marino, while we know about Bill Votto, I mean, that's a pretty potent offense too.
It is. They have put up
Number
some
one team in the Rio
numbers.
Hondo League.
Yeah, they've put up some numbers. Like doing our daily roundups this year, I think that was one of the funnest parts of doing daily roundups this year. Is you're looking at scores from all over the state, and you're opening up these box scores, and it's just like seemed like every time I was going to look for San Marino's score to write them up, it's 7 runs, 9 runs, 12 runs, and on the backside they're giving up 1, 2, 3, and sometimes you might say, okay, that's competition level. I don't think it is. Like that's a pretty good league in the Rio Hondo. I think they're just that good. But this is one of those games with Bilvato and Ricken going at each other where the bus ride could be longer than the game time because those two guys on the mound, it could be an hour and 30-minute game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and again, Great Oak, the number 3 team out of the Southwestern League, come in, they kind of limped in 12-16 on the year. San Marino 21-6 on the year. So, they know what success feels like, tastes like, if you will. And I mean, I don't think they're going to be intimidated. Granted, they very likely have not seen an arm the caliber of Ricken, right? Going to LSU,
No.
mid-90s, also rakes from the left side. So that one's going to be interesting, at least in my opinion. One of the ones that we were talking about, one of the matchups in D3 we were talking about is, Redondo Union hosting Warren is like, hey, congrats, you made it to the playoffs. By the way, here's Angel Cervantes, who has a chance to be
Probably a first rounder.
Pick. Yeah, top 2-round pick at worst, right? And one of the best pitchers we've seen in high school baseball in a long time, from just a stuff standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be a challenge because Warren gets after it offensively too.
It does. They grind. Like they had that series against La Mirada where you figured they were going to win the Cervantes start, but then they wind up going and sneaking another one. And La Mirada is a really highly seeded Division I team. And it's like, don't let yourself fall asleep on the fact of, you got to face Cervantes. You also got to keep them off the board.
Yeah.
Like it's not hey, we hope it's 0-0 and Cervantes is out of the game. We have a chance to win it in the 7th. Like you can look up and be down 6-0. And now, granted, I think Redondo's got, who's the righty there that's really good for them? I can't think of the kid's name.
Drawing a blank.
I want to say Gonzalez, but I mean, no matter what, when you get into this first round, you're not in the first round of CIF without having a good arm. Like you can go through any of these matchups. I think I was looking at another one, like you've got Arrowhead Christian and Dana Hills. Bobby Mahoney's going in that game. That's going to be a tough one. There was one farther down.
That should be a good matchup. I was going to touch on that one because that should be a good matchup. Dana Hills, they don't score runs in bunches. They don't score a lot of runs, but they pitch.
They grind, and they grind.
Ferris does a phenomenal job with pitchers there, and they're just going to wear you down on the mat, from a pitching perspective. And Arrowhead Christian, obviously we know about Mahoney.
Diesel Toth there.
Toth can bang it out of the yard at any moment.
They got a couple of freshmen that had really good years there too. Deegan Martinez and Jamison Pierce, JFG kid for us. He swung it really well. Like it's going to be a good one.
A home game for them, and so that should be a good one too. You touched on the bus rides, right? And
I think you're looking at the same one I'm looking at.
Before we went live here, we talked about this, and that is Castaic having to go to Paloma Valley. I mean, Castaic is probably
it's starting to go up to 5 going into Bakersfield.
You're
about as far north as you can get.
Yeah, they're out there. I mean, that you're talking about a good 3.5 hour bus ride. Like those guys are gonna have to leave at like 10:30 in the morning.
Oh, big time, man. The one thing I will say for Castaic, I saw them early in the spring. They're an older group. It's a senior-laden team. They got some arms. It's like I would worry more about that if you're a team that's a lot of juniors or sophomores and haven't had to do that. You've got an older group, but man, I don't care who you are getting on a bus and sitting for 3.5 hours. Like, I hope they do. Like, hey, take the day off of school. Leave early, stop somewhere along the way, get out, eat lunch, walk around for a little bit, get back in the bus, maybe get to the field 2.5 hours before game time, just so you can get out and move around again and then start your stretching. Like, don't give yourself the chance of it's a 3:15 game and you're rolling in at 2:20 because you got stuck in traffic.
Yeah, and you talked about the senior kind of leadership there for Castaic. lot of those guys were on that team 2 years ago that won
Hmm.
CIF in their first year, right? I
Yep.
mean,
Division
well,
6 or 7,
six,
I
I
think it
think?
was.
Might
Yeah, it
have
was a
been
lower,
7. Might have
but
been
it's
7.
all, yeah,
Yeah.
all those guys were there. Like,
Right. And it's like you got that
mhm,
experience to draw on, right? So this
yep,
isn't something that's going to be like, oh my gosh, we're in D3 playoffs, right? It's look, we've
exactly.
got
That's a
this
very good
experience.
point.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's going to be really helpful for them. Another one that I thought was really intriguing was Costa Mesa against Kaiser, right? Costa Mesa is a
Yeah.
team that they've got some players, Wyland Rotshaper, a guy you and I both like,
Yeah.
and they've got a couple of arms there as well. They're hosting a playoff game for the first time in a long time. 22-6 winners of the Golden West League. I mean, that's a team that can make some noise if they get past this first round, because they would face the winner of San Juan Hills and El Toro. Saw San Juan Hills against Foothill earlier this year. Kind of not your typical San Juan Hills team, in that the offense might have been a little bit down this year for those guys at 15-13. And then tip of the cap to Gonzo over at El Toro, man. Got
Yeah.
his team to 500. So, tied for second place in the Seaview League. Got him back into the postseason here. It's been a little bit of a rebuild project there for El Toro, but I mean, that's a program that's coming back now, after a down couple of years by their standards.
Yeah. I want to touch on just one more before we go to Division 2. Like, Hart. Hart's back in. They won our Division 2 title last year. Yeah, they lost some pieces off that team, but that's a group that's got a pretty heavy chunk of players that dogpiled last year at Lake Elsinore. We talked about it with Castaic. Like, they've been there. They're not going to be surprised. There's some guys that have been through that fire already, and I would not be surprised if they make a run. Am I saying they're going to get a championship? No, but don't be surprised if they knock somebody off and maybe get a little deep into this thing again.
Yeah, I mean, dude, when you got those kind of veteran leadership, right, guys
Yeah.
that have been there, guys that have done that, like you said, I mean, those guys know what it's like to dogpile, right? And
Yep.
and it's
And they
an
went through some
addictive
grinds
feeling,
last
right?
year.
What's
14
that?
innings in the first, or 14 innings in the first round, a
Yeah.
4-hour bus ride,
Well,
a
didn't it
come
get
from
halted? It got
behind.
halted because of darkness, right? Didn't they have to pick it up? Or was
No,
that
they
part?
almost would have. That was the last inning they had were going to allow them to play. And actually, the kid that hits the walk-off hit for them is their starting catcher this year as a senior. So
Yeah.
he's been in that spot. So, and you go through a grind in the semifinals and a controversial win in the championship. So, like, they've experienced all this.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple more just to touch on really
Yep.
quickly. Brea Linda's hosting Paraclete. Again, another long drive from
Yep.
Lancaster for Paraclete. Great job there by Rich Pohl over at Brea to get those guys to win the North Hills League, 18-7 overall. They'll be hosting a playoff game. And then one that I think is super intriguing is Fullerton hosting Wilson out of Long
Yeah.
Beach. I mean, you're probably going to get Declan Fitzgerald if you're
Hmm.
Wilson. We know all about him. ASU commit, low 90s, big hammer, good changeup. But Wilson is, you can't count out those more league teams, man. They're
No.
scrappy. They can play small ball.
Hmm.
They can move runners over. They always pitch. So I think that one's going to be a really intriguing one too.
Yeah, and it's a different look for some of like somebody out of the Empire. Like they're going to see a different style of arm and a different style of offense than what they're used to seeing all the time. And that's one of the funnest things about this is like you get used to seeing the team that you see all the time, and then you go see somebody that plays a whole different style of baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's pivot over
Ah,
to Division Two real quick. Um, this one, we talked quite a bit before we came on air. Like, we know D1's a gauntlet, but dude, D2 this year is no joke. Like, this
Not
is
at
this
all.
is,
Like
this is no joke whatsoever. Like, this is as good and competitive a D2 bracket, I think, as I've ever seen.
I was thinking back to our season preview podcast, and I got to talk, I think, about 6 or 7 teams that I was very high on in this area up here, and 6 of those teams are in this bracket. Like that, it's a very, very talented bracket. And there's probably another 3 or 4 I should have talked on that preview that are now in this. Like it is going to be no joke winning this if you are left standing at Fullerton or Long Beach, wherever you play this game at, you are going to have absolutely earned winning a championship.
Yeah, and at the top, La Habra got the number one seed,
Hmm.
first place team out of the Freeway League. And here we go. Guess what? You're playing a league rival who you just played 2 weeks ago and split a 2 game series with them 2 weeks ago in Crean Lutheran.
Did they
And
play two game series?
they played two. I think it was one of those where they played so
Okay.
Crean actually won the series. So if you go back to March 7th, Crean won 6-5. And then 2 weeks ago, Crean won the first game 7-2. And then La Habra got him 13-0
And beating
in the
somebody
third
three
game.
times in a year is not easy. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
it's
but again, it's like this is a first place team from one league playing the third place team from the
yep.
same league. And they just played 10 days ago, right? Or 2 weeks ago. And it's like,
It's kind of like, where's the
make it
reward?
make sense
Like,
for me. Make it make
yeah,
sense
where's
for
the
me.
reward? Like, you didn't reward teams for doing what they're supposed to do, which is winning their league. Like, you look at just below them, you got Palm Desert and West Ranch playing each other. And West Ranch has got to drive all the way out to Palm Desert. We were talking about this one beforehand, too. Same thing. Like, you got two Division One arms going after each other, and they both won their league.
Yeah.
Where's the reward? Like, both of those teams, like, they deserved, and I'm not knocking anybody for being a third or a fourth place team in your league, but they probably should be playing a third or fourth place team out of a league and not
Yeah.
from their own league like Crean Lutheran.
Right. And like I think the biggest issue just based on the coaches that I've talked to so far this morning is like, why are we playing games against league opponents in round one of
Hmm.
the playoffs? And like you just touched on, why is a one playing a one?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
I
yeah,
don't care
okay.
what your
You
league
you
is.
could
You won your league.
you could argue, right, in Palm Desert's case, that the Desert Empire League may not be, world beaters, but still, you're the champion of that
Yep.
league, and your reward is you get West Ranch from what is a pretty
A
darn
very good
good
affiliate
league.
league. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
a
I
pretty
think
darn
that
good
league
affiliate
has
league.
5 playoff teams.
Yeah,
So you're getting the first place team from a 5 playoff team league. And all of those teams, I believe, are Division 4 or above.
yeah, and that matchup's going to be really good, right? Hunt,
Yeah.
we anticipate Hunter Manning for going for West Ranch against Jake Brand from Palm
Yeah.
Desert. You're talking future Big West matchup there with Irvine versus Long Beach State, and
It's another one where I think the bus ride could be longer than the game time with how far West Ranch is going to have to travel to get out to Palm Desert. Like,
yeah,
I live in
just the
Ventura.
one-way bus ride is longer,
Yeah.
let alone the
I
return
should have put
trip.
that
Right?
caveat in there. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, for me from Ventura to get to Palm Desert High School's 2.5, 3 hours.
yeah,
And it's basically straight east for me to get to Santa Clarita. So they're looking at a 3-hour bus ride. Like, I'm
yeah,
pretty sure this game is going to be shorter than the bus ride they're going to take getting out there.
yeah, yeah. That's a really really intriguing matchup there in D2. The one matchup, Simi Valley obviously
Yeah.
won last
That is
week, won
one
their
that
league,
I'm very
clinched their
fired up
league.
for.
Yeah, against Royal last week, and
Yep.
bumped Royal down a little bit in the playoffs. But Royal still gets to host. But Simi Valley's reward is, hey, you get to
Wyland
host.
Nelson.
Yeah, Wyland Nelson from
Ventura.
Ventura, right? I mean, that's gonna be a really tough matchup for Simi Valley.
Oh, and it's gonna be a tough matchup for Ventura. Like,
Yeah,
your Ventura's gonna throw Wyland, I would assume. Like, he's their guy. He's taking the ball on Tuesday. I think he's got like 4 or 5, 10+ strikeout games. He's thrown 89, 92, really good curveball, really good slider. He's also their leadoff hitter. He's got 5 bombs on the year. But Simi's got 2 arms that have an ERA under 1.5. They just came off a week where they beat their rival in back-to-back close games. So they've been through basically a championship environment already of, hey, we got to win both to win our league. They do it, and it's, again, we talk about the reward. Like, they just went and pulled off a fantastic week, beating a very good team. And now you get Ventura, who tied for their league championship. And basically, their league championship came down to a tie because the Santa Barbara and Ventura didn't get to finish a game earlier in the year because of darkness. So it winds up with a tie. So you're getting a league champion after you decide. It's almost like, man, would we have been better off finishing in second and getting that other spot? It's like,
yeah,
there's no rewards this year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, no perfect brackets. We
No.
understand that, right? There's always going to be somebody that's unhappy. And, the argument always is like, oh, this is too easy. This is too easy. Like,
Yeah.
they've got an easy road. They've got an easy road. This year, I think that's where CIF got it right.
Yeah.
Is there it like nobody has an easy road here, right?
No.
Take D1 aside, but in D2, D3, particularly in D2, nobody's got an easy road here, man. Like this is
No.
a really good bracket, I think.
I think so too, because it's like you look just above that, you got South Hills and Modern Day. You've got just the amount of what is it? Well, you have one, two, three, Westlake and Oaks Christian, both in the same one. They were co-champs of the Marmani League.
Yeah.
It is, Milliken, who's got a very good team going against Foothill with Gavin, and I always butcher his last name. I think it's Laridzin. Like,
Lorenzen, yeah, Gavin
yeah,
Lorenzen.
that's no fun matchup right off the bat. Trabuco Hills and Bonita. Like, it's like I said, I think this is as hard to win as Division One this year. And I don't think we could have ever said that in any other year. Like D2 is good,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's ever been another year where you can look and go like winning this is going to be as hard possibly as winning Division One.
You talked about earlier, like, you got to have an arm, at
Yeah.
least one really good arm to get into the postseason. We're going to see a lot of good arms in D2 in the opening round.
Cool.
Like, I mean, you would anticipate Mater Dei to throw Brandon Thomas.
Yep.
You would anticipate San Clemente to throw Ersbomber, going to USC.
Westlake's going to throw Atkinson, who's going to probably be the Marmani League pitcher of the year.
Yeah, and then Gar, you're going to get Enrique. Like, hey, congratulations, LaSalle. Go face one of the best arms in the 2026 class in Jake Enrique. Fountain
Canyon's
Valley.
going to get Zach Strickland to open it up.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, dude, it's no joke, man. I mean,
yeah.
Servite against Riverside Prep. Servite, the fifth team out of the Trinity League, hosting a game against Riverside Prep, who you noted earlier was, would you say D5 last year? Or
D5
something?
quarterfinals last year, and like they were this close to being a semifinals team last year.
Yeah, so they jumped up. Trabuco Hills against Bonita. You got two really good coaches there in Lavoy and Marcos. I mean, it's just it's a gauntlet, man. And then we haven't even touched on Sierra Canyon against Loyola. Right?
Yeah, you got two of the 4 and 5 teams.
Two Mission League teams going at it, right?
Very similar to La Habra and Crean Lutheran. They just played 2, maybe 3 weeks ago at the most. Like they've just seen each other. It was a good series against each of them, and it's like, all right, here you go play each other again to start it all off.
Yeah, but I want to touch on Royal and Sultana because that could be a really intriguing matchup. Dustin Dunwoody for Royal, who obviously we had at the Future Games with us last year and has had just an incredible junior season after committing to Arizona, and Sultana's got a really good arm too.
Yeah, that's going to be a very fun one. It's 2 low 90s fastballs with power breaking balls. You're going to get Dunwoody, who started the year as what I would probably have said probably the 3 guy for Royal. Like they had the big Oklahoma State commit. They got a lefty that's going to UCSB, and Dunwoody was kind of like the bridge guy going into it. And then he just magnificent year. I was looking at it, I think it was 52 innings, 78 strikeouts, an ERA, I believe either under 1.5, possibly even under 1. It's like a 120 batting average against him. But then Sultana's going to run out Jose Borrego, who was outstanding at state games last spring. And his numbers, I did an uncommitted spotlight on him a couple weeks back. Like the numbers this kid has put up for 3 years in the Mojave River League, it's stupid. Like he's striking out over a batter an inning for 3 years. Plus he's hitting like almost over 400 for his 3 years of high school. Like that's going to be a really fun one. And then whoever wins that, your reward is to go play Sierra Canyon or Loyola.
2 traditional D1 teams, right? And it's like, good luck.
I think that was, I counted up, it's like 11 or 12 teams that were Division I teams last year are in this. Did I lose you?
No. I thought
Oh,
you were going to finish something off there.
oh no,
Yeah,
it's like there. You said that traditional Division One teams. There's a
yeah,
lot of teams that were in Division One last year playing in Division Two this year.
yeah. And I mean, two others that we can throw in there, Foothill and Milliken. You touched on it a
Yep.
little bit earlier. Like Lordson, I would assume gets the start for Foothill.
Mhm.
Milliken is never an easy out. Anthony Pack at the top of the lineup there going to
Yeah.
Texas, who's a draft
Who I
pick
saw them
consideration.
3 weeks ago up in a tournament up the Central Coast,
Right,
and
right.
that first 6 or 7 hitters are really good. They're going to run out 5 left-handed hitters who can swing it, and that's going to be a tough one for Luridson to run through because it's not like you're going and facing a traditional high school lineup with 6, 7 right-handed hitters in it. You're going to see
Yeah.
6 or 7 left-handed hitters coming at you.
Yeah. And that Moore League, man, it's one of the more underrated leagues in our
Yeah,
area. I believe. I think it's really good. And I'm not too familiar with Westlake. Obviously last year they were really good. Volantis led the
they
charge
know how
there,
to
but
win. You said
right,
it earlier.
right.
They know how
Wally
to
does a
win.
great
Like
job.
fantastic. They had 6 walk-off wins this year on their way to 6 straight, actually. Six
Straight at
straight
home, right? Yeah,
walk-off wins at
yeah,
home. Well, obviously at home, but
yeah. Well, yeah,
um, but they know how to win. Like if you're in a close late game with Westlake, you better be afraid because that team knows how to win games. They've got some seniors that it's their first year that they've really gotten to play because they had such talent there the years before, and these guys have taken that opportunity and run with it. They got some juniors that moved up from a JV team that honestly probably would have been varsity kids at a lot of other schools. It's just you had Johnson brothers, you had Marisette, who's down at San Diego State. Like they had guys all over the place that there weren't spots for these kids on varsity.
yeah.
So they came up this year and just took off. And like you said, knowing how to win means a lot. And Wally has that team knowing how to win.
Yeah, dude, Wally does a phenomenal job. And San Clemente with Erspommer, I mean, he's
Mhm.
going to give him a chance to in every game that he starts. And go the kid going to USC there. The other intriguing one that you and I were talking about was, Mater Dei hosting from a sixth place finish in the Trinity League. They're hosting the Hacienda League champs, South Hills. Now,
Yeah.
I've seen both of these teams, and talk about a contrast in styles, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Mater Dei's probably going to throw Brandon Thomas, who's been dominant. Like he's been dominant on the
I
mound
don't think
this
he gave
year.
up an earned run until his last start.
Yeah, it just absolute dominance on the mound from BT. And then on the flip side, you have South Hills, who has 5 or 6 arms that are going to be mid to upper 80s. They're going to spin a breaking ball. They're going to be able to lay down a bunt. They're going to be aggressive on the
Yep.
bases. Murph does a really good job in kind of teaching that to his guys, and they're super aggressive. They want to put the pressure on. So it's
Mhm.
great contrast and styles going at it there over at Mater Dei on games on Friday there.
And it's gonna be fun. Like when I was doing high school previews at the December, January, getting ready, and it was like there were quite a few kids that had left South Hills to transfer to other schools down in that area. And South Hills was in our tournament last spring, right?
Yep.
It's been so long, I can't. I was like, man, like they were in the tournament last year, good squad. I
Huh?
like that's a lot of kids leaving. And then you look up and they're 21-7. They won their league again. And it's kind of like we talked about with Westlake, like they just know how to win.
Yeah.
They play really, it's the same thing I would say about Simi Valley. Like Simi Valley doesn't have the star power of maybe some other programs, but they just know how to win. Like they play really good baseball. They're grinded, but their best offensive guys is sophomore. Like, and that's not knocking anybody else in their lineup, but their best offensive guy is a sophomore, and they have 2 lefties that if they hit 86, I'd be surprised. But they throw nothing but strikes. I think they've walked 25 between the two of them in 140 innings this year. It's knowing how to win means a lot. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things in this division is teams like that know how to win and aren't going to beat themselves.
Yeah. I mean, getting way ahead of myself here, Hardy, but I mean, a potential matchup of Brandon Thomas against Gavin Lords in the
Oh,
quarterfinal. I mean, that could be 58-minute game.
Oh yeah, with the tempo that those two guys throw at and their ability to hit the bottom, like you, you might have to replace the dirt in front of home plate after that
Yeah,
game with the amount of ground balls that are going to get hit. Like
yeah,
I was looking at the same thing up on the top, and it's like you've got the chance of potentially Notre Dame running into a Mission League team, and I think Notre Dame, for as slow as they started off this year, they
yeah,
figured it out in the Mission League. And
yeah,
that's what really impressed me about them is I was super, super high on them. Came in like guns ablazing. This
yeah,
is their year. And they didn't quite have the year that they thought, but they really figured it out towards the back end of that season. And they are
yeah,
a dangerous team to see right now.
yeah. If they've been pitching well all year,
Yeah.
right? And it looks like you said, their offense the last couple of weeks has really picked up.
Yeah.
And if they're able to get by Etowanda, Etowanda started really slow, but
Same exact thing there. Like, and
yeah,
I
but
saw them at the baseline league day probably a month ago, and it was
yeah,
like, man, how is this team's record not that good? Like they have talent up and down that lineup.
yeah. Donnie Fernald's got them clicking well right now,
Yeah.
and they had a big matchup against Los Osos last week that didn't
Mhm.
go their way, but yeah, I think they split with them actually.
I think they actually won. No, they
They
lost
won
the.
one of
Yeah, it was like
three,
two
I
of
think,
one.
total.
Yeah, but they
Yeah, they,
did like. I think they were the one because it was early in the baseline. You had Los Osos and Rancho Cucamonga were 6-0. Rancho sweeps Los Osos and then goes and plays Etowanda the next week, and Etowanda sweeps them.
yeah,
And it was just like, holy, okay, Etiwanda's for real. Like I
yeah,
thought they were really good when I saw them at the baseline league day,
yeah,
and all of a sudden it clicked for them. I would say very similar to Notre Dame. Like they figured it out at the end of the year, and that's a
yeah.
dangerous team to play.
I mean, if Notre Dame finds a way to get past Etowanda in that first game, I mean, you got to feel good if you're Notre Dame about your
Mhm.
chances in round two with Berg on the mound against either Gar or LaSalle.
Yep.
That kind of opens some doors for you if they can get past that first one.
And then you get to the next, yeah, like you said, that's a team that could sneakily make a run if you can get past the first round. I think you could
Yeah,
say that probably about every team in this. If you can get out of the first round,
yeah,
now it's okay. Who's number two is better? I
right,
think
right.
that's where it comes down is like, who's number two is better than the other number two if you can get out of the first round.
Right, and Servite, very likely will roll out Toby Kwan there
Yep.
to start things off, and their number two is pretty darn good. They've got a good sophomore arm that comes out of the pen for them, and
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. I mean, I think you just said it best, right? If you can get out of the first round, a lot of these teams should like their chances, right?
Easier said than done this year. I think any other year, getting out of the first round is easier said than done.
Yeah, well, Todd, speaking of easier said than done, let's make our way over
Let's
to
do
Division
it.
One, right? This is what many believe to be the hardest tournament to win in the state, regardless of sport. And you won't get any argument out of me, right?
No, and I think
The
making
Southern Section
27
D1
teams,
champs,
like
right? The Southern Section
God,
D1 champ is generally the best team is left standing, right? I mean,
yes.
we saw it last year with Corona, saw it the 2 years prior with Jay Sarah. The year before that was Harvard Westlake, and go back, back in time, as far
I think
back
you
as
said
you
it the
want.
best.
Go
It's the
back as
best
far as you want.
team.
It's generally the best team wins this, right? And
Yeah.
so little bit different setup this year, Hardy, with 27 teams in the D1 bracket as opposed to 32. CIF introduced a lot of different parameters for this year's postseason. And so as a result of having 27 teams, you have 5 teams with buys. The number 1 overall seed in Corona, the 2 seed in Crespi, the 3 seed in Huntington Beach, and the 4 seed in St. John Bosco. And then Aquinas also picks up a bye as the winners of the Ambassador League and sporting a pretty robust 25-2 record.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with only 11 first-round matchups versus 16, which we traditionally get. And so just your initial thoughts, your initial takeaways on the D1 bracket this year, with the 27 teams, the 5 buys, whatever it is. Floor is yours.
Brutal. Brutal. Like, you take away 5 teams from the first round, so now you've made it even harder because it's not the top 32, it's the top 27. So it's the 27 best teams in Southern California. It's a lot of teams that have played each other or have played each other in the past. It is, we talked about this in Division Two. It's not your number one because everybody's got a good number one. Like, you're
Uh-huh.
not in Division One without having a good number one starter. It's your number two.
Yeah.
And honestly, with a
Even
lot of
your
this,
3, right? Like
it's
even
your
your 3.
bullpen.
Yeah.
Who are you going to when you have a 3-1 lead in the sixth, and you facing? I'm going to use Harvard Westlake here because it's a grind pitching to Harvard Westlake. Like, they're
Yeah.
not going up there and making a lot of 1 and 2 pitch outs. It's 6, 7, 8 pitches, and I don't remember what the pitch count number is. I think it's 105 that you
Mhm.
have to take them out at. Like, God, facing Harvard Westlake, you could be at 105 in the fourth with the
Yeah.
way that they grind at bats against you. And they might not have any runs, but they might have just grinded you into your bullpen. And that's the bigger thing, is like, it's brutal. And I think that's where what you said at the beginning of this is the best team is going to win this. It's not the best arm, it's not the best star power. It's the best team that can overcome the inevitable obstacle that's going to happen. You are
Yeah.
not going to have a clear path. Think about Corona last year. I mean, was it the modern day game or the opening round where they
Yeah.
had to win in the
Yeah.
bottom of the seventh or whatever it was? Like,
Yeah,
no matter how,
I was at that game. It was Mater Day. They
yeah,
scored. They scored in the top of the 7th because it was at Mater Day.
yes.
And
And
they
that was the
scored
one
it.
where guy makes the Sir, I think, robbed the
Yep.
homer in
Josh
left
Stewart
field.
up against the wall there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you're going to run into an obstacle because there are no easy games. I
Yeah.
don't care who you think youth is an easy team in this. They are not an easy team. You could sit there and go, oh, you drew so and so. That's, it's not like drawing Bosco. I don't give a crap. Like,
Yeah.
they're all good. They are
Right.
all good, especially on opening day.
Right. 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 Well, you mentioned Corona, the obvious number 1 seed. They're kind of been the wire to wire number 1 team in the state. They're up there top 2 or 3 in the country. I believe we have them number 1 in the country still here at Prep Baseball. 26-2, champions of the Big 8 League. It's important to note that one of those losses was at an out-of-state tournament, so they've lost 1 game to a team from California
In 2 years.
Yeah, right. They that was a league game, so that kind of bursted there. I can't remember what it was. I think it was 21 game league winning streak or something going
Yeah.
back to last year.
And it was a rival game too.
Yeah, yeah. And so, they're the number 1 seed. We mentioned Crespi, the 2 seed. We mentioned Huntington Beach, the 3 seed, Bosco, the 4 seed. But man, there's some really, really good matchups here. One that I think is going to be really sneaky, a sneaky good matchup, is Summit against Laguna Beach.
Yeah.
You'll have Dylan Harrison presumably on the mound for Summit versus Thomas Gonzalez.
You might get Snathers. Like, that's
Right.
we just talked about it. Like, team, like, they got an option, and it's not like you're losing one by going to the other. Like,
Yeah.
they can go either direction, and you're getting a really good freaking arm.
Yeah. And Thomas Gonzalez for Laguna Beach has been
Yes,
lights out this year.
that's what I think it was. I was thinking it was at Redondo. I got the schools wrong. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. No, he's been lights out. Low to mid 90s with the fastball, really good breaking ball, really good changeup. And he's essentially carried Laguna Beach both offensively and on the mound. I mean, they're 24-3 out of the Pacific Coast League. That's I don't care what league you're in. You're 24-3. I mean, that's a damn good ball club.
It's like saying you're hitting 500. Like, I don't care if you're hitting 500 in the Division 7. Like, you don't luck your way into 500. You don't luck your way into 24-3. But Summit's won 22 in a row now. I think they were 3-3, and it's not just winning games. Like, they are putting a hurting on some teams, and
I mean, these two teams are a combined 49-6 on the season. Like
And I
that's
don't
a
think because
lot of
Laguna,
winning.
I think Laguna's won like 11 in a row. So it's
Yeah,
like neither of these teams have lost in a while. They don't know what it feels like to lose.
yeah, yeah. No kidding. Up near the top of the bracket, a couple of teams with some coaches that we both really like, and Los Osos hosting
Mhm.
Cyprus. I just saw Cyprus. I think it was last week against El Medina, and like this is a team they were down. But they came right back. I mean, they gave up 2 runs, and next inning, boom, they put up a 6 spot, right? And it's like that's a kind of typical John Weber coach team, right? Like you're going to punch us, great, we're going to knock you out. And they've got a lot of personality on that team, right? And
We
just
talked about contrasting styles. This
right,
might be exact same styles.
right,
Like it's gonna be like looking in a mirror when they play each other. Because Coach Kelly over at Los Osos, same thing. Like they got swept by Rancho Cucamonga and easily could have said like, oh well, there went our baseline league title. Say another year, and they respond and go on. And I think they lost 2 games after that and wind up winning the league anyways. Like
yeah,
if you're going to knock me down, you better knock me out with one of these teams
yeah.
because they're not going to stay on the ground unless you hit them with a haymaker.
Yeah, TK's done a phenomenal job at
Yeah.
Los Osos. I mean, that program was pretty down when he took over a few years ago, and to win the baseline league, to get into the D1 playoffs. Gavin Lobkeen, the guy that we had at the preseason All State, love him on the mound. Obviously Wyatt Moeller, who we were very familiar with. Another guy that can seemingly do it all offensively and is a really good defender for them.
Hunter
Look,
Meyer out in center field, like
yeah.
he's a Fullerton commit. Like that kid is as dynamic a player as I've seen all spring between what he can do on defense and what he can do at the plate.
Yeah, that's going to be again like one of those
Yeah.
sneaky, really good first round games, and then
That's the game I'm calling gets called due to darkness, and they got to finish it on Saturday or on
I'm,
Friday.
go, I'm going Harvard Westlake all day, bro.
But that's not because they're going back and forth with
Yeah,
like haymaker,
yeah,
jab,
yeah.
haymaker. That's going to be Harvard Westlake because we all know Coach Halpert is going to find his way to make the other side uncomfortable.
Right. Well, speaking of that Los Osos Cyprus game, I mean that could be the beauty of that game, in my opinion, is it could be 1-0 or it could be 13-12.
Yep, that's a great point right there.
Yeah.
Because neither team's going to roll over and die. Like I will be stunned if I look at Max Preps on Thursday night and it's like an 8-2 ball game, one side or the other.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see that being the case with those two teams or those two coaches and the talent on those two rosters. And then, right below them, another interleague matchup, right, with Norco and
Mm-hmm.
Corona Centennial, the second and third place teams out of the Big Eight, just behind Corona. I don't have it in front of me. I don't have their head-to-head matchups this year. I would assume Norco won the series just based off their seeding, but I'm not certain of that. But Norco Centennial is like that's one of those where hey, the winner faces the winner of Summit Laguna Beach, and it's like you win that game, and you might have a chance to make a little bit of a run here, for both of those teams.
Yeah, it's if you can get through that, I don't think you look at any of these and go like, okay, if I can get through the first round, I
Right.
feel better in the second round. Like I think Division Two has a little bit of that where like if I can get through the first round, I might feel a little better in the second. I don't see where that happens for anybody in this because it's like, okay, because
Yeah.
you get through that, and I'm not saying someone's going to beat Laguna Beach, but let's say they do. You're either getting Cody Smathers or Dylan Harrison. Like, you're
Yeah.
getting one of those two. And it's the same thing for them. If you get through your first round, you're getting probably let's say Norco wins it from that side. You're either getting, is it Jordan Ayala as the talented freshman
Yep.
there, or you're
Yep.
getting Landon Hovermel,
Yep.
the junior that's going to Long Beach State. Like,
Right. right?
Thanks. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, if I'm a coach, that's a lot of aspirin before the game because I got a major headache.
Right, right. And we talked about a couple of those players over at Norco. Obviously Zion Martinez having a
Yeah,
huge year for them offensively. It's just I think that's going to be a fun matchup because they're
yeah.
so familiar with themselves, right, with each other, right? And it's like it's going to be like
It,
another league game,
yeah.
but it's an elimination game.
It's a fun one, but I think for me, it's a frustrating one because it goes back to what we've talked about this whole time. Like, I just feel like there had to be a way they could have separated those two
Yeah,
and
yeah,
given them a chance to see somebody that you're not so familiar with. Because no matter who loses that game, they're going to come out of it feeling like, man, like they knew us. They knew us too well. We didn't have a chance to play somebody that didn't know how to play us yet.
yeah, yeah. That's a really strong point. We touched on the Summit Laguna Beach game. Below that, Aquinas, they have the bye.
That's
They
gonna be a
will,
tough matchup for them.
yeah, they will face off against the winner of Villa Park and Bishop Amat. And I think this is another really good, sneaky good game. Like Villa Park's offense of late, led by Aiden Young at the
Mhm.
top of the lineup, has been really good. And Amat's pitching of late has been really good. So it's, a kind of strength versus strength here in that matchup.
And if I remember, I don't know a ton about either of these teams, but I know that Amat's got some guys that they're not stuff guys. They're not going to blow the ball by you, but they are going to frustrate you on the mound because they're going to pitch backwards. They're going to throw strikes.
Yeah,
You can't really ever sit on something like, okay, I'm going to get a fastball here
yeah,
or I'm going to get a breaking ball here. And they are scrappy. They get after it. It's kind of like a South Hills team in Division One.
yeah,
Like they are not going to be a comfortable game. And you said it with Villa Park, like Aiden Young's hitting the crud out of baseball right now.
yeah.
I was looking at his stats the other day, and it's like, holy moly! Like if you're looking at anybody in that lineup and you go, let's not let that guy beat us, you've got to imagine Aiden Young's name is being highlighted multiple times. Don't let him beat us.
Yeah, he was something. It was absurd. Something like 11 of 13 during their 7-game win
Hmm.
streak with pair of bombs, like 5 walks. Like he was just on. Like the ball must have looked like a beach ball to him, right? But for Amat, you got Pineda, you got Muniz on the mound.
Hmm.
Like they got a lot of arms that, like you said, will frustrate you because I'm going to blow it by you at 95, but they're going to drop a slider into the back foot to a lefty, and they're going
Hmm.
to throw a changeup away from a righty, and they're just going to frustrate the snot out of you. They're
Yeah.
not afraid to pitch backwards. Two really good coaches, kind of legendary coaches here in Orange County
Hmm.
with Bert Call and Joe Hoggett. Um, it's just it's really one of those intriguing matchups, at least
Yeah.
in my book on D1. And then right below that, we get into the next kind of pod, if you will. St. John Bosco, again, they have a bye. They'll face the winner of Vista Marietta against Harvard Westlake. And this one has me really, really intrigued because you have to assume that Von Necker is going to throw
Hmm.
for Harvard West or for Vista Marietta, excuse me. And then the question becomes for Harvard Westlake is they kind of flipped the script going into the Crespi week with they started Kirshner, the talented
Hmm.
sophomore, over Evan Alexander as the first kind of number one guy, if you
Hmm.
will. And all he's done is completely responded for them.
He's been outstanding. Like
Yeah.
just the year, and with Harvard Westlake, it's the minute Kirchner gets into trouble, you know you're getting somebody else, and you're going to get tons of different looks because they have so many different slots and styles of pitchers. And yes, Von Necker is very talented. He is a very good arm, but that is going to be no cakewalk for him going through that lineup. I don't care if I've heard people try to say that it's not the Harvard Westlake that bangs. It's still a Harvard Westlake offense, and
Yeah.
it is going to absolutely grind you down. And the moment you make a mistake, they're going to jump on it. They're going to be just an absolute grind for them. And, you know, I would not want to have to face Harvard Westlake in the playoffs. Like,
Yeah. You're right.
it's
There,
like a second home for them.
Right, right. Yeah, there's no Rainer, there's no PCA, there's
Yeah.
there's no obviously Tronny at the top there, is probably the most recognizable name. But I mean, you got Rootman,
Yep.
Kim, both have had really good sophomore seasons. Don't sleep on Jack Lafitte. He's done
Don't sleep on Kid Goldstein. Like,
Goldstein. Yeah, I
he's
mean,
been through this for 3 years.
right. Drew Rico behind the dish.
Yeah.
Nate Blum's now playing second base for them. Like,
Ethan Price is
Ethan
sneaky
Price.
good in the outfield.
Yeah, I mean, this is, but the thing about it is, like, kind of, you touched on it a little bit. I mean, they're going to work the count. They're going to spoil pitches. They're going to try to get, the pitch count up as high as they can, try to get Necker out of the game as quickly as they can. But, on the flip side, Mr. Marietta, their offense, no slouches either, right? I mean, Necker himself hits in the middle of that order. Rylan Duson has done really well. RJ Holmes has had a really good season for them.
Tatum Reeves behind the plate.
Yeah.
Kramer.
Is it Labum?
I know. Yeah, I know you're talking about
the catcher.
Yes.
The catcher has done really well. Tatum Reeves playing elsewhere now because of this guy, the senior.
He's playing first, which has helped his bat. Like, he's had a really good year at the bat because he's not grinding behind the plate every single game. Yeah. And he's made the most of that opportunity.
Yeah. That is a really good matchup.
Yeah.
That's a really good game. Winner of that takes on the Trinity League champ St. John Bosco, who, they've had just a remarkable 2-year run under head coach Andy Rojo. Obviously we were at the game last year at Lake Elsinore where
D3 finalist.
Yeah, they got walked off there by Beckman. But I mean, 23-4. When they swept their first 2 series in Trinity League, I remember texting you saying, "Dude, these guys might go 15-0 in league," and they went 14-1 in what is widely considered America's best baseball league. And so, tip of the cap to those guys because they're. I saw them against La Habra. Fell behind. I want to say it was 2-0 early, and then just. 2 huge innings, and it was, game over. And that
lineup can do that to you real quick.
Yeah, and they got depth on the mound too.
Yeah,
and they're good. Jack Champlin, who we had with us at Future Games last year's, done a phenomenal job for them as they're kind of their number 3 guy, kind of bouncing back and forth between 2 and 3. So Bosco's not going to be an easy out.
They're the one I think is like them and Corona are the 2 that I worry the least about with this long layoff because of how much pitching depth that they have.
Oh.
The ability to, like you said, there's names that we didn't even talk about there that if somebody's not throwing the ball well, it's not let's hope he figures it out. It's a next man up sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so that's the kind of the top part of the bracket. Moving down to the bottom part, Huntington Beach, the 3 seed, gets a bye. They'll face the winner of Newport Harbor or Santa Margarita, which, again, a potential league matchup in round 2 should Newport Harbor pull that off.
And those were all really good games. If I remember right, those Newport Harbor Huntington Beach games, they were all close until I think the 3rd game in the series.
Yeah, I think Harbor won 2 of 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they got 1. I think they got the game that Gavin Guy threw.
They got the 1, yeah. So again, you just said the guy's name, Gavin Guy. The dude we're familiar with was at the state games last year, shoved and hit. I saw Newport Harbor against CDM earlier this spring. Gavin Guy was on the mound, threw a CG, had something like 10 Ks, 1 walk, right? I think he allowed 3 hits. It was. And he's as good a pitcher as there is that not a lot of people talk about. And the way I look at it is, if you're a pitcher going to UCSB,
I was going to say the same thing.
You're good.
If you have the letters UCSB after your name and you're a high school pitcher, you're probably really good. Like, not good, you're really good. And you're probably going to be even better by the time you're done.
Right. Yeah. And it's a 6'2", 6'3" frame that's got room to add about another 35 pounds by the time it's all said and done. And for Santa Margarita, man, they got to find what was working for them early in the season.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're banged up, but a lot of these teams probably are at this point in the season. They kind of limped through the Trinity League there, finishing third and finishing with a 16-12 record. I mean, we had them as high as number 3 in the state at one
Mhm.
point this season.
I
So
think they're like the opposite of Bosco, where they're real happy they got 9 days off. Like, let's rest some bodies. Let's see if we can get some guys healthy. Like, again, there were, I think, the 2 or 3 bats that were not hitting at the end of the year. Like, let's get them out of game competition and go get in the cage and work on some things, try to get some confidence back. Like, 9 days off for them could be scary for the rest of Division One.
yeah,
And they've been
yeah,
there before. It's
right,
another
right.
one of those, like, they know what it takes to get to the finals and to win it all.
Yeah, right. I mean, D2 champs back in the day, they lost a walk-off to Jay Serra a couple of
Mhm.
years ago at Blair Field, which was one of the best high school games I've ever been to. And in the CIF final. So if Santa Margarita can find kind of their mojo again,
Mhm.
I mean, that's again, a potential round 2 matchup of Huntington Beach and Santa Margarita. I mean, we were
Sign me up
talking
for
to
that. That's a fun
we
one
were
right
talking
there.
to
Like,
Shooter Hunt a little bit before this call, right? Shooter's like,
I
dude,
think
like,
that was the first matchup he brought up.
yeah. He was just like, dude, he's like Huntington
He didn't
against
even
Santa
say
Margarita.
hi. He said Huntington Beach Santa Margarita in round 2.
Right. But so right below that group of 4, the next group of 4, La Mirada against Los Al will face the winner of Olu against Rancho Cucamonga. And let's start with La Mirada and Los Al. I mean, this is, I mean, they're all good games, right? But
Yeah.
again, so I mean, it seems redundant to continuously say that. But La Mirada's lineup is deep, it's talented, they
Mhm.
can hit. They're at home, ball flies there.
Mhm.
And Los Al, I had a chance to see them earlier in the year, and this is a really good Los Al team.
Mhm.
Casawara on the mound with Lorenz backing him up. Devin Porch, the leadoff hitter going to Cal Poly, that guy was one of kind of my favorite players I saw this year. He was 3 for 4 the day I saw him, just causing havoc on the base paths, and his 4 was getting thrown out, was a ball caught like up against the fence on, the right field where
It's
the
probably the
guy like
hardest hit ball of the day, and that's the one that did get hit.
right, where
Yeah.
the guy ran like 30 yards to make a play, so this is a really intriguing matchup to me, simply because I think Los Al's got really good arms and La Mirada's got really good hitters. So it's kind of
And
that strength against strength that we talked about earlier too.
And La Mirada reminds me of somebody, like, I didn't bring him up in Division 3, but Calabasas. And Calabasas doesn't always have like the superstars. Like, they had some really good players over a couple of years, but
Yeah,
it wasn't like they were going 9 deep with that type of player.
yeah,
But Thomas Cassidy's such a good coach there. And I think of Jimmy Zern the same way at La Mirada, is you can't count out a team coached by Jimmy Zern. Like, I don't care if they're not good or if they're really good, you can't count them out. And then you add the fact of, like you said, that lineup is scary good. Like, there was somebody that I saw in the fall who I really liked from La Mirada, and he's not even playing for him. That's how
yeah.
good that lineup is. And like, if you'd asked me, I'm like, that kid's got a chance to be a Division 1 kid. Like, he's got that kind of tool. But they're so deep in that lineup.
Yeah, and Zern, a lot like, kind of Halpert and Brett Kay and those guys, he will slow the game down,
Hmm.
right? And play that to his advantage. And obviously the results are what they are, 21-6. Again, just another really good team, right? I mean, La Mirada,
Yeah.
that program as a whole in the last 8-9 years, since Jimmy took over, is just he took over a really good program and has managed to
And then
elevate
took
it.
it to the next level.
Yeah,
Yep.
which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And so they'll play the winner of Olu against Rancho Cucamonga. Another intriguing matchup, right? Because Olu,
Yeah.
they've had periods where they've scuffled to score runs,
Hmm.
and they've had periods where they've scuffled to throw strikes. And you talked about Rancho a little bit earlier, right? Where they swept Etiwanda, or they swept
Los
Etiwanda, I think
Osos.
Los
It was
Osos,
Los Osos. And
then
like,
got swept. Yeah.
They're
And
another one who's real happy they've got 9 days off because they've had some injuries in the latter part of the season that has hurt them. But we talk about teams that have been there before and they know what it takes. Rancho's the exact opposite. Like this
yeah,
is the most wins they've ever had in school history. It's a team that's never been there before, so they just don't know any better. Like,
yeah,
hey, we're here, we're in the party, and now let's cause some chaos.
yeah, yeah.
And
And
they have
those,
the kid at the top of their lineup, Brock Folds. Like
yeah,
if he gets on, it's utter chaos.
yeah,
And at one point this year, he had like 50 innings pitched with a .5 ERA. And he was hitting 520 at the same time. It was like bonkers stats. I know he got a little nicked up at the end of the year, and he's a guy that is going to benefit from this couple days off to be able to come back and be healthy.
yeah. It's a really intriguing thing when you have those teams that have never been there really
Yeah.
before, right? Like you don't know any better, right? You got
Yep.
nothing to lose, right? Like you got
Puncher's chance. You got a puncher's chance.
right, you got invited to the party. Now go make the most of it, right?
Yep.
And those are dangerous teams, man, especially
Yeah.
in this one and done kind of scenario that these playoffs are.
Mm-hmm. You're playing with house money. Like you invited us here, it's our turn. And
Yeah,
like you talked about Olu, like they come in with expectations. Like
yeah,
they're I hate to say it this way, but they are Olu. And we all know Olu. And it's kind of like you were second in the Trinity to a really good Bosco team. It's kind of like they have the pressure on them. Rancho's got the hey, we got invited to the party. Like we thought we were gonna be D2 probably. And now
yeah.
we're here. Let's upset somebody's punch.
You talk about like the burden of expectations, right? Olu is 22-6, and like you talk to some people down here where I'm at, and it's like, yeah, they had a
Bad
down
year.
year. Like, bro, you're 22-6. You're the second place team in the best league in America at 22-6, and
They're
you're going
not
to
any
take
good
that
this
down.
year. How do you
Yeah,
not win that league?
right. Like, and it's a down year, but tip of the cap to RJ Farrell,
Yeah.
first year head coach there. He's done a really good job, and I anticipate that they're gonna make some noise, right? I mean, for those.
One of the things I noticed with them is they never really extended their arms this year. It
Mhm,
was kind of when I was writing up Power 25 games, their starters weren't going 6, 7 innings. They were
yeah,
going 4, 5, and it wasn't high pitch counts. It's like there almost seemed to be this thought of let's be fresh in May.
yeah,
Like, if we are 22-6 and people do say we had a down year, you know what? My guys have only thrown 40 innings. They haven't thrown
right,
65 innings. So there might be a little gamesmanship going on there of like, hey, we're gonna get into the party. We know
yeah,
we're gonna get into the party. We're good enough to be there. Let's be fresh when we get there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And they certainly are fresh, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the top of their rotation. You go Colt Peterson, Stanford. You go
Hmm.
Gary Morse to back him
Tennessee.
up, right? Tennessee. Like, dude, like that. I mean, they're going to face either La Mirada or Los Al in round 2 potentially,
Yeah.
and you're going to face Gary Morse, who's committed to Tennessee, who is 6'6", who's 93, 94 with a wipeout slider. Like,
And they got the little guy Miller behind them, the lefty. You
yeah,
got Ramos. Like they've got arms, and that lineup is versatile. Like I think that's the funniest thing of them is it's it's so versatile. They can hit a home run, and they can come back and sack bunt. They can
yeah,
steal a base. They can hit behind a runner.
yeah,
Like and they play really good defense. Like that's RJ's calling card.
yep,
RJ is a defense guy, and
yep.
they take care of the baseball over there.
Yeah, yeah. So that another really good first round matchup. Next pot of 4 teams, Hardy, Miracosta, first team out of the Bay Leagues, 26-2, faces off against Arlington, 21-7, champions of the Ivy League. The winner of that will face the winner between Arcadia, 25-3, first place out of the Pacific League, against Aliso Niguel, 22-6. Tied for the top of the South Coast League. But let's start with Miracosta and Arlington. What Div has done at Miracosta is nothing short of impressive, right?
Mhm.
26-2. Keep in mind that they started 2-2.
Yeah,
24 game win streak to close out the year. They go
undefeated in the Bay League.
undefeated in the Bay League, which is no joke of a league.
Yep.
And they've got talent, and they've got more talent coming up.
And they
And
got a chip on their shoulder. And
yes,
I love that about them. I love seeing when Coach Div posts things on Twitter because he has a chip on his shoulder and he is not afraid to let people know that he has a chip on his shoulder and they're going to come after some people.
yeah, yeah, and they're going to face an Arlington team that I saw at the National Classic a couple times. That's pretty darn good, right? I mean, we
Hmm.
know obviously about the two big sophomores they got, and JoJo Flores and Luke Bacon, guys that you and I are familiar with. But and I'm going to butcher
Nathan
his,
Chavez, the lefty,
the,
CBU.
yeah, they got
Yeah.
Chavez, and then behind him, I'm going to butcher his name, Castle, the
Oh,
pitcher.
yes.
Yes,
Yes. UC Irvine guy.
yes, yeah. Yeah. Starts with a K. Look it up. I don't want to
Yeah, I'm not
butcher
going
his
to
name.
try that one. I let
Yeah.
you.
So I mean, this isn't, and then they have Cody Kimley, who,
Mhm.
word on the street is he may be down with a little bit of a snag in the arm, but this is a really talented Arlington team who comes from the Riverside, right? It's I think it's
Mhm.
Coach Steve Madrill. It's kind of that tough Riverside
Mhm.
personality, and I got to see that in person at the National Classic a couple of times where it's like, dude, like, this it's baseball and yeah, we're losing, but dude, we deal with so much more. Like, we're tough, like, let's go. And
Yeah.
so I don't think they'll back down from Miracosta, but it should provide for a really good game. Again, 47-9 combined record between these two teams. 26-2 for Costa, 21-7 for Arlington. This should be a really good matchup at Miracosta, where you get that breeze that comes off the ocean, right, and it blows out into center field and a little bit into left field.
Get a few balls up in the air and see how far
Yeah,
they can go. And
you hang
there's a
one to
couple
this.
bats in that Arlington lineup that could take advantage of that
Yep, yep.
and have some fun
I
with
mean,
that.
yeah,
Well, and going on the Arlington side, I had somebody tell me last year when they lost to Hart, I think it was in the quarterfinals last year, and this was from a Hart person that said, whoever won that game was winning CIF. That's how much they thought of Arlington last year. Is like if they would have beaten us, we would have said they were going to win it because they were very talented. It was just kind of Hart was the team of destiny last year, and
yeah,
they were like if they beat us, they were going to win it. He's like that team was the best team we played all the way through the playoffs.
yeah, yeah. It's a good team, man. And having seen them a couple of times this year, the lineup. There's 4 or 5 guys that you can't let beat you, right?
Hmm.
And you just cannot let those guys beat you. But as is often the case in high school baseball, when you focus on those 4 or 5 guys to not let beat you, you usually let one of the other 4 or 5 guys
Seven, eight,
beat
nine. You
you,
make a
right?
mistake too.
Yeah, right. And these are all varsity baseball players in
Yep.
Division One and CIF. So these are no slouches, right? So the winner of that plays the winner of Arcadia and Aliso Niguel. I got a chance to see Arcadia early in the season, and they're 25-3, and they're a really, really good team, man.
Yeah.
Two
I
of their
saw them in the
losses.
semifinals last year, and pretty much that whole squad is back outside of the arm that threw for them that day.
Yeah,
And they're scary. Like
yeah.
they're
I mean,
scary.
their 3 losses are 2 of them came to Olu, and one of
Hmm.
them came to La Mirada. Right,
Yep.
both teams were top 5 in the state when they
And
lost
they
to
weren't
them.
blowouts. They were
No,
close games.
yeah,
Like they
yeah,
had
and
chances to win those. So
yeah,
they are a scary squad. Like they were that close to being in the D2 championship last year. It
yeah,
took a late rally from Hart to knock them out of it last year. And that team has felt that. Like they have felt we were that close to being at a championship game. Like you've got to imagine that stayed with them of we don't want that feeling again.
yeah. Then they face off with the Liso Niguel, who again tied for the
D3
championship
champs? They were D3 champs 2 years ago?
2 years against your guy
Mhm.
San Marcos,
Yep, against Schoenwetter.
Schoenwetter, right? And dude, I was at that game, and they put a little bit of a whooping on Schoenwetter.
They were the
Uh,
only team that really touched him up all year. I mean, you're
yeah,
talking fourth rounder, and they got to him. They were the
yeah,
only team to get to him.
yeah. You got Sable there, who's had the type of year we kind of expected from him the last couple of years.
It finally hit.
Yeah, offensively, I think he's answered a lot of questions this year with the bat. Obviously the defense is really strong as we've become familiar with. They got Cooper Fleming over there now, who transferred over from Ganesha. Thank you. And he's had a really strong year both on the mound and at the plate. And so this is going to be a test for Arcadia. This won't be a walk in the park, but I just feel like Arcadia, this might sound corny, but they feel like a team of destiny, right? It's like, dude, you're 25-0 against teams that weren't ranked top 5 in the state. And and Coach Lemus does a great job with that schedule. It's not like they're playing, slouches outside of league. They're playing a who's who outside of league. And
he challenged them because their league, it's a good league, but he says we're going to go play even better than our league when we go outside of it. And they beat those teams.
Yeah. And they've done a really good job. And then the last pot of 4 is really a pot of 3, thanks to a bye. Crespi advancing to the second round with a blowout win against the bye team.
They squeaked through. Eisenhower gave up no runs again.
Yeah, right, exactly. They'll face off against the winner of 2 teams that we're really familiar with in El Dorado and Ayala. I think the job that Matt Lucas has done at El Dorado this year is one of those that doesn't get enough attention. 20-8, yes, 3rd place in Crestview League, but that gives you an idea of how good the Crestview League is or was this year with Villa Park and Foothill and some other team, Cypress and some other teams in that league. And Ayala, man, the job that Brad's done over there is outstanding. I saw them against Mater Dei in a game that, gosh, I think it went 9 innings or 10 innings or something. And they lost on they could have scored the game winner in the top half, but were it not for a remarkable play by Wetzel out in right field. But you've got Trug, right, who league MVP, pitcher of the year against El Dorado, a team that a lot like Harvard Westlake will look to wear you down offensively.
And El Dorado way more than me. I'm going to just talk on Ayala. They're the exact same as Arcadia. They were that close to being at Lake Elsinore last year. It took a controversial call, and I think it was either the top of the 6th or the top of the 7th that they wind up not getting to go their way, and then they wind up losing. And it's they've been that close. They have been that close. You've got a guy that last year was kind of figuring it out. We knew Trugman was very talented. He was very talented, but he was still figuring it out. Well, this year he's figured it out. Stuff got better, the numbers got better, and the numbers were already really good. It's a team also that is not historically a Division I team. They're historically a D2 or D3 team. So it's kind of, to me, like a Rancho Cucamonga situation, but maybe even a little better in hey, we're here. Let's pee in somebody's Cheerios.
Yeah, right. Exactly. and you talked about Trug, and the scary thing with Trug is another guy we had out at Future Games with us last summer, where he was 87, 89 on the mound out there, threw a lot of innings last year for Ayala. But now is creeping up on that 91, 92.
I think he's hit some threes this year.
We'll touch a 3 every so often, right? And so this is a guy who's only getting better, and a lot like Gavin Guy has got those 4 magical letters after his name, UCSB. And so, I was talking to somebody when I saw Gavin Guy, just to go back to that real quick. I said, it reminds me a lot of Tyler Bremner when Bremner was a junior, but he has a bigger frame and a little bit more of a projectable frame than Bremner.
Okay.
And people coming into the year, we're talking about Bremner as 1-1 and, now still in the first round conversation. And now you add a guy like Trug, who's a little bit taller than Gavin Guy.
And I've heard has gotten in better shape. Like he was a
And
little soft body last year. He's
uh,
big. I've heard he's got in better shape and he's holding that stuff real late in the game.
yeah, he's been, well, when I saw him against Mater Dei in the spring break tournament, he was electric, like electric. I mean, he
Yeah.
had a couple of innings where it was 1, 2, 3 on like 8 pitches, and you're just kind of like, ooh, okay. However, he'll come back out and labor a little bit, right? And throw
Okay.
15, 20, 21. So it's that consistency point. Granted, that was 2 months ago, right? And
Yeah.
obviously there's been improvements since then. So I think that's going to be a really good one. Ayala does go to El Dorado, a place that they're familiar with, right? From having played in the National Classic. So it's not a park that they're unfamiliar with. And as we
But going on
know,
the road in the playoffs is not fun. Like
right?
you want that home game. Like you want your players to be comfortable. Like you roll out of class, you get to dress in your own locker room. Like they're it's hard winning on the road in the playoffs. I don't care how good you are. Going that's shown by Corona last year, going to Mater Dei. Like Mater Dei almost knocks them out, and we all had Corona as like, there's no way they're losing. No way.
Right,
No
right,
chance. Nobody's beating that team.
right.
And they're looking in the seventh inning going, we need a gigantic play and a big hit because you got to go on the road and it ain't easy. They're still high school kids. These are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. Maybe some of them are 19, but they're still kids.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. So D1 will start on Thursday. D2 will start on Friday. So for D1, they'll go Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, Tuesday, and then the Friday,
Friday or
Saturday
Saturday.
final. But just let's kind of throw the crystal ball out there, Hardy. I didn't. We're not picking
I
a
was
winner.
gonna get you this one, but you got to it before me.
We're not picking a winner, right? We're not doing that again this year.
I, I was
You know,
gonna go Corona versus the field. Are you taking Corona or are you taking the field?
that's a good one. I like that. But just kind of looking ahead a little bit, right? Some potential quarterfinal matchups that that could be really exciting for me. Like starting at the top, right? If we go Corona Summit,
Yeah.
and say you get a Seth Hernandez Dylan Harrison matchup,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think there's enough space at Corona to host the number of
No,
people that will be there, right?
you might have to play that game at San Manuel. Like,
Yeah, I mean that the crowd there. I mean, take the fans out of the equation. The number of scouts
yeah,
that will be at that game. I was at the Corona Huntington Beach game last year, and I showed up an hour and 45 minutes before the game, and
and we're still fighting for a spot.
it was already half full. And so if that potential quarterfinal matchup could be really intriguing.
Yeah.
A quarterfinal matchup for me that I think also could be awesome. Aquinas versus Bosco or Aquinas versus Harvard Westlake. Those could be,
Contrast and styles right there.
yeah,
Just so different in how those programs go about winning games. And it's like we talked about same style contrast. Like that would be fun because you're going to see two different teams go after each other.
yeah, exactly. And we didn't talk about the bye teams a lot, obviously, because there's no first round game. But what Mike Carpentier has done at Aquinas is
Yeah.
really impressive, right? I mean, he's gotten players to buy into what he's doing. I saw them during the spring break tournament. I saw them when they took one of their 2 losses, and they. They're really talented, right? I mean, it's you got Mason Greenhouse, Carter Hadnot, the list on and on.
Well, you have talent that isn't playing every day. And he's gotten those
Yeah.
guys when they get their opportunities, they're not pouting, they're not upset about it. It's okay, it's my turn and I'm going to help us win a game today. And then I might not be in the lineup the next game, but when I'm in there, I'm going to help his team win a game.
And they get a lot of slack for like the depth of their league and
Yeah.
the talent in their league. And you can't control that, right? I mean, your league is what your
Yes.
league is, right? So, I mean,
You play who's on your schedule. You
right.
don't have a choice in that.
That's where, again, tip of the cap to Carp with what he does with his out of conference schedule,
Mhm.
right? What he does in the fall, what he does in the winter with the teams that he plays. He's playing a who's who, right? He's not
Yeah.
he's not shying away from the competition. So
He knows what the end goal is for them, where we
right.
want to be, and who, if we want to do what we want to do, these are the teams we got to play, and we got to be ready for it. It can't be the first time we saw 92 with a hammer.
Yeah, and Mason Greenhouse has had a really really good offensive year for them
Mhm.
for Aquinas this year, and we touched on Hadnot a little bit there, but another quarterfinal. It seems like we see it every year.
HBO Lou, baby. HBO Lou. That was the
It's
first
like
one I thought of. I thought that's where you were going first.
yeah, that's where I was going because it seems like we see that matchup every
Mhm.
single year, right? Like, I
And
mean,
they're always upset because it's like, why do we got to play them in the quarters? Like,
right, exactly.
how do we always get stuck in the same pod? Like, it's the Harvard Westlake seems like they wind up in a pod with somebody weird every year. And
Yeah.
then every year, HB and Olu are right there staring each other down 2 to 3 games away.
Right, exactly. Right. And then at the bottom, right? I mean, this one, I think this bottom group of, 8 teams or 7, sorry, because I forgot about the
Yeah.
bye. But this
Don't
bottom,
count buyout. Buy's really good.
this bottom part of the bracket is as wide open to me as
Yeah,
any, right? I mean,
I agree.
we could easily see, a Miracosta Crespi. We could
Hmm.
easily see in Arlington El Dorado.
Hmm.
You could see hell, you
You
could
can
see
see Arcadia
Arcadia Ayala.
Ayala. Yeah.
Right. You could see Arcadia Ayala in there, right?
Two
And
teams that were semifinalists in D2 playing each other to get to the semifinals in D1.
yeah, and it's like the only team that doesn't have a chance is that bye.
Yeah. I'm telling you, don't count them out.
So it's like, I mean, again, that bottom portion of the bracket is as wide open as I think it as I can remember. Although
Yeah.
I saw Crespi a couple times a year. This year, I know you saw them. That is a really really good
Yes.
team, senior
I
heavy team.
That
That
was the point I was going to say is I was real high on some other teams in the Mission League, and this was kind of a reminder to me that don't discount experience. The
yeah,
amount of seniors that Crespi had that I did not account for having experience playing in the Mission League, having experience playing. They were on a team that won, was it D2 or D3 2 years ago?
D3, yeah,
Yeah,
might have
it
been
was
D2.
D2. It
Yeah,
was
against
D2
South
two
Hill. I was at
years.
that
Yeah,
game.
same
Yeah,
year. Yeah. Like,
it was the game
I
before the one we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
That was a miss, and I wear that one. I missed on not accounting for that group that had been through that trial once, and
Well,
they had been through all of that, and they were like, "This is our last year. This is our last chance to win another Mission League title to try to make a run at this," and those guys capitalized on it.
I mean, it sets up perfectly for them, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
go Isringhausen in round two, or sorry, Eisenhower in round two,
Hmm.
Tyler Walton in the quarterfinals, Eisenhower in the semis if you get there, and then you go back to Walton. I
And you
mean,
have Diego Velasquez hanging in the wings, throwing 95 out of the pen to
right?
probably close out 3 or 4 of those games, possibly.
Yeah, man, and
And that
I
lineup's
thought,
no joke. Like
yeah,
that's where I was like, I did not account for how good a senior lineup could be with
yeah.
Crespi. And hats off to that team because that senior lineup, they were fantastic this spring.
Yeah, and the job that Coach Glenn Denning's done with that program
Yeah.
is really really something else, right? I mean, I saw them against Loyola, and that was my first thought was that lineup is good, and then
Yeah.
I saw them
And it's
against
old.
yeah, and I saw them against Harvard Westlake. Yes, they lost the game, but they had a chance, and
Yep.
I mean that lineup again was like, ooh, that's a pretty darn good lineup that's going to make some noise.
Yeah. We talked about like, do you think of a 4 or 5 man lineup where you let up against a 7-8-9? You better not let up against a 7-8-9 at Crespi because
Yeah,
that 7-8-9 is really good. It's not your typical high school lineup where 7-8-9 might be guys that are just going to school in two
yeah,
years. It's a
yeah,
lot of guys
right,
that are
right,
probably going to play college baseball,
yeah.
and maybe
On
they're
some
not
level.
going to D1. Yeah, they're not. They might not be D1 names, but they're probably going to go play and be really good junior college or D3 or D2 or NAI kids.
Yep.
Like there's no spot in that lineup where you can just go, okay, I'm going to throw 3 fastballs over the white of the plate and get my pitch count down. You don't have
Right.
that with Crespi.
No, you don't. You don't. And they can do everything, right? They can,
Yeah.
like we talked. I can't remember the team we were talking about earlier. I think it was Harvard Westlake, right?
Mhm.
They can bunt, they can hit and run, they can hit behind runners,
They
they
can hit
can
a
do
3-run tank.
yeah, right, right. They can
Yeah.
do a lot of different things offensively. So, well, the time
So
has
you want
come,
to
Hardy.
break down all of D2 again? Let's go. Come on. I got nowhere to be today.
Yeah, we can talk about this all day, but I guess I will put us on the spot and
Oh, all right.
a little bit here. And I'm not gonna say that we have to pick a champion, but let's pick a first round matchup for Division One and Division Two, given that they're
Okay.
on Thursday and Friday, that you will very likely find yourself at.
Oh man, I really that Division 1 is so hard. Um, if I make it out to a Division 1, because there's a D3 game that I'm really intrigued with that I might find myself at on
Oh,
that same
which
day.
one? Which one? Tell us.
Uh it is, and I just talked about it's that Calabasas San Dimas
Oh,
game.
right, right.
Um, I just like I said, I it's Thomas Cassidy. There's something about what Thomas Cassidy does at Calabasas where I thought with losing Nate Castillon and Jordan Kingston and some of the older guys off that team, I'm like, this might be the year that they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, no, not only did they make the playoffs, they were the number 3 team in the Marmani, which I can't remember was the foot or the Freeway League or one of the ones you were talking about down in Orange County.
Yeah.
It's the Marmani's the same way up here. It's like to me,
Yeah.
it's the best public school league in my area, and they finished third in. So I may find myself out running out to see that just because I love the way Calabasas plays baseball. But if I do make it out to a Division 1 game, I would probably say it's either going to be Arcadia, Aliso Niguel, or I may back to back it where I saw La Mirada last year against Oaks on opening day of D1. I might make that drive down to see La Mirada Los Alamitos.
Yeah, there's a couple I've circled. That Summit Laguna Beach, that pitching
Yeah.
matchup was really intriguing to me. I've got that one circled, and I've got the Vista Marietta Harvard Westlake one circled. I mean, kind of the power pitcher of today
Yeah.
in
If that
Necker.
game was at Harvard Westlake, I would have been there. That
Yeah,
that was a no doubter when I saw the star. I'm like, that's 4 hours.
yeah.
I like driving, but I don't know about 4 hours on a Thursday.
Right, right. So it's like the power pitcher of today in Necker in against what potentially, I believe might be the power pitcher of 2 years from now in Kirchner.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, those two games are the two I've got circled. Just got to make sure that those arms are going because
Yeah.
I think the Harrison Gonzalez is, I think, potentially the best first round pitching matchup at
Yeah.
least. And then flipping over to D2 on Friday, this one's
That's
a
where I need
tough
to
one.
clone myself.
Right. This
Like
one's a tough
I
one
need
because,
three Hardys for this one because
yeah,
that Royal game, that Sierra Canyon game, and that Oaks Christian game, and that Simi Ventura game, like I want to be at all 4 of those. Like I
yeah,
love all 4 of those games. I would say and I talked to you about this before. There's a good chance that I might start my day at Royal versus Sultana and get 2 or 3 innings out of Dunwoody and Borrego, and
yeah,
then make the 10-minute drive over to Simi and catch the end of Simi and Ventura. That is a strong possibility. But man, that Oaks Christian Redlands East Valley game to see Dabs throw
yeah.
and see Quentin one more time. I don't know. That's a tough one to pass up on too.
Yeah, I'm on the fence on a couple of games too with Canyon and Maranatha. The chance to see Strickland
Mhm.
throw, that one is really intriguing to me. Also the Trabuco Hills Bonita one is pretty intriguing, just because of the way those two coaches run their programs. You know
Mhm.
what you're gonna get. But also like modern day South Hills, man, like that, I mean, Brandon Thomas has been electric this year,
Yeah.
right? And the chance to potentially see him one more time is exciting, right? And then South Hills, we know all about them. We talked about them. So, um,
I
Hardy,
mean, I'm just actually, for as much as I've ragged on the CIF today, I'm thanking them that they didn't put Notre Dame and West Ranch at home, because that would have made 6 games that I would have wanted to be at in that same division. So, the CIF, thank you. Thank you for that.
right.
Uh,
It's not an easy job for those guys over at CIF, but they do what they can with
yep.
what they have, and we're grateful for everything that they do because
And at the end, you know what? Those championship games, no matter how we complain about it to start off, when you show up to wherever they're hosting them at that year, those games are always fantastic.
Yeah, right. I mean, the D1 final, the last 5 years that I can remember have just been outstanding, right?
I saw 7 of the 8 championship games last year, and there was not a dud in any of those 7.
Yeah.
I mean, the closest you can say to a dud, and it wasn't a dud, was Chino Hills against Santa Monica, and it was still like a 4-1 game or a 5-1 game.
Yeah.
I didn't even bring up Chino Hills, who's in
Right.
D2 this year, and I would not be surprised if we see Chino Hills in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't touch on them very much, but Hardy, man, again, thanks. This was a long one, but it usually is when we're talking playoffs, and we're.
And in about 2 weeks, we'll get back on here and we will rap about the championship games.
Yep,
Although I don't think we're going to get live from the drive this year.
No, that's going to be unfortunate. that was the best part of the podcast last year.
I may drive down just for that first day and catch some games, even though I know we got future games tryouts the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Be sure to check us out on prepbaseballreport.com. We got you covered, everything you need to know about not only the playoffs, but high school baseball in general. So, Hardy, appreciate your time, man. Thank you for doing this, and we'll talk to you soon.
One last one. Good luck to everybody out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All 9 divisions. Good luck to all these teams. Like, it's an honor that you guys, like you said, practicing on a Saturday in May is something special.
Absolutely. Yep. And so for Hardy, I'm Les. We appreciate your time and we thank you, and we'll see you guys at the yard.